Gates? Hochhalter?
Here.
Oh, there you go. Iverson?
Here.
Kibler? Leiter?
Here.
Nestle?
Here.
Offerdahl?
Yes.
Sessions?
Yes.
And Wagonist? All right.
It's quorum. Rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go to approval of the December 7th, 2021 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Offerdahl to approve.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Bauman. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Barnett?
Yes.
Bauman?
Yes.
Tomekis?
Yes.
Hochhalter?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Leiter?
Yes.
Nestle?
Yes.
Offerdahl?
Yes.
Sessions?
Yes.
And Wagonist?
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Pretty light agenda tonight. The first item on the agenda is a request from Jason Haugen and Ashley Haugen, representing Glenn Schumeyer, to facilitate a lot line adjustment. And from what I understand, Mr. Van Dyke, we have a little tweak to this one, if you would fill us in real quick.
Thank you, Chairman Demakis. So I'll give a brief presentation on this one, extremely brief, and then the applicants asked that it be continued to the February meeting.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we begin, Blake Nybakken, the applicant for this next case, he's having trouble logging in with his Teams link. Oh, he
Yeah.
said he just got it.
Yeah, but I just sent it, Brian.
Yeah,
so.
I just got the message here. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Very good. We'll continue on with number 5 then.
Okay. So I'll read this off. It's a public hearing request on an application from Jason Haugen, Ashley Haugen, owners representing Glenn Schumeyer, also an owner, to facilitate a lot line adjustment through the creation of 2 new outlots to be known as Outlot 24 and Outlot 25. The subject properties are legally described as being located in the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 34, Township 155 North, Range 82 West, Ward County, North Dakota. The properties are addressed at 6021 37th Avenue Southeast and 6061 37th Avenue Southeast. So here's the subject property. Getting a bit of bass feedback here. Thanks. So outlot 24, 25, it's 2 lots going in, 2 lots coming out. I want to adjust the property boundary. Staff's recommending, one of the conditions was related to an easement on one of the outlots, and
is now joining.
the property owners would like to, or the applicants would like to table or continue the meeting until February to have further discussion on the easement condition. So that is also staff's recommendation, to give us a chance to work with the applicant and the county regarding that easement. So if the Planning Commission would entertain that modified recommendation, I've provided it on screen. So I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dyke. Any questions from the commission on the applicant's request and Planning Commission's recommendation on this item at this time? Very good. Thanks. Is there a motion by the commission to continue the item to the February 1st meeting?
I'll move to continue the item until the February 1st, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting at 5:30.
Very good. We have a motion to continue. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leiter. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Call the roll.
Barnett?
Yes.
Bauman?
Yes.
Tomekis? Hochhalter?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Leiter?
Yes.
Nestle?
Yes.
Offerdahl?
Yes.
Sessions,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Very good. Do we have Blake on the phone now? Real quick before I start item number 6.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, very good. Yep. So item number 6 is a zoning map amendment and planned unit development amendment on request from Blake Nybakken representing Blue on Broadway, LLC, and Northern Bottling Company for an amendment to the planned unit development overlay to remove the restriction to first floor commercial comprising of 30% office or similar uses. The application proposes expanding the overlay district to encompass a proposed parking area to provide 10 additional parking stalls as part of the Blue on Broadway development. The legal description for the properties are lots 7 and 8, Block 2, Homemakers Edition, less Highway and Street, and the south 60 feet of the east 120 feet of the west 150 feet of Lot 3, Block 2, City of Minot, Ward County, North Dakota, addressed as 1629 South Broadway, and this was previously continued from the December meeting. So we'll turn it over to staff to pick it back up from where we left off.
Thank you, Chairman Demakis, members of the Planning Commission. So we'll give our brief presentation that we didn't provide last month. So the subject properties reside between 16th Avenue and 17th Avenue Southwest and abut both Broadway and First Street Southwest. The properties are zoned C2 with the PUD for the existing Blue on Broadway site and C2 General Commercial for the property east of First Street Southwest. The future land use for the property is commercial, or both the properties is commercial. So this is the original Blue on Broadway concept that was presented to staff. It wasn't, as you can see, the Blue on Broadway was finalized, presented a few years ago and now is now existing. As part of that, they envisioned having a second phase of it to the east of First Street Southwest. So just to clarify, it's the building portion of it is not part of the application being presented tonight. Simply the parking lot component. There was always planned at some point to have parking east of First Street Southwest. That's denoted in red. What they're proposing is that they place the parking lot in the location shown in blue. So that's the only thing that's part of this proposed expansion of the Blue on Broadway project is the parking lot at this time. So the parking lot will provide 10 stalls, and as a condition of approval, mid-block pedestrian crossing will be required. Landscaping proposed includes a maple tree and 9 shrubs. The remainder of it on the west side would be the apron serving parking stalls. Some site photos of the existing condition. That's the blue site. And then what the property looks on the east side of First Street Southwest presently. So here's the findings of fact. In short, the applicant has submitted a complete application. The proposal meets the requirements of the PUD overlay. And the Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case and provide recommendation to City Council. Staff is recommending approval, subject to a few conditions. I'll go over those. So one of the requirements would be to include that mid-block crossing as well as the necessary signage related to the parking lot. That's condition number 1. Number 2 is site plan should meet the landscape buffering and parking lot requirements within the code. This is related to buffer yards and screening of residential windows. Specifically, I'm providing a modification within staff's recommendation, and that's bolded and underlined here. It should be focused along the east property boundary. Technically, if it wasn't a PUD, they would have to provide a buffer yard along the south boundary. That's the property, that's the church property. And what they have located in that area is like a playground 30, 40 feet to the south, and it's open yard, so it's not, there's no structures there that would cause an issue. So it's unnecessary to have that buffer yard. The ordinance for the zoning map amendment to C2 commercial district with the PUD overlay will include both properties' legal descriptions. And again, since we're modifying the PUD, just wanted to make sure it's clean for any future staff as we're reviewing it. So the architectural elevations and layout will defer to the applicant's original PUD submission and parking lot expansion provided in the exhibits within the staff report. And then an amended development agreement or a new development agreement to strike planning requirement 7I of the agreement. That's related to the 30% requirement to have office use or equivalent occupy the first floor commercial. So these 10 stalls, that requirement was to reduce the amount of parking demand at the Blue on Broadway site. With these 10 stalls, they'll actually bring themselves into compliance with our parking requirements. So tying the two together as a holistic PUD, planned unit development, we can remove that 30% condition or requirement. And then to effect the same, we'd modify the resolution that to memorialize the removal of a condition related to that. So I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have a couple questions, please.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Van Dyke, if we were to approve this, we're actually doing three things, right? We're changing the zoning. Is that what we're doing? Changing the zoning from C2 to C2 with PUD?
Chairman Dominguez, Commissioner Sessions, that's correct.
And is that for just that area for the parking spaces, or is that for the entire?
No, it's just for the area that was denoted in blue.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Go ahead.
Mr. Van Dyke, I'm not sure if you can speak to this or if this will be a question for Mr. Nybakken, but the bus stop and the dog park that were originally in the design that you showed, would those then be moved to the north and basically those two areas would be flip-flopped, or are we losing the dog park and the bus stop for these parking spots?
Chairman Dominguez, Commissioner Bauman. So again, that was highly conceptual at the time they were presenting it to staff. At this point, I'm not sure what their intentions are for the north of the property. We've seen some different ideas, but at this time, nothing concrete. So if they're wanting to do something that's outside of what they're already legally entitled to do within the C2 General Commercial District, then they'll come back in, likely for a PUD or a future land use map amendment or a zone change, and come back before here for approval.
Okay.
Otherwise, the properties to the north are entitled to develop commercially, however, not necessarily looking like they had originally conceived several years ago.
Okay, cool. Second question for you then. I know we have several tools in our new updated zoning code that allow for some variances and maybe substitutions for parking, such as being along a bus route, bike trails, nearby parking that maybe wouldn't be used at that particular time, i.e. churches and bars, things like that. Has the applicant explored some of those options for this particular location before just going ahead with putting the parking lot there?
Yeah, thank you. Chairman Dominguez, Commissioner Bauman. As far as alternatives, shared parking would be the first that comes to mind. I mean, obviously trails and busing would help, although there's already a route that goes by that location, and at this time it's largely you just have to flag down the bus or ask to be dropped off. But the closest parking lot that could be utilized would be the church's parking lot. China Star lost some parking as Blue on Broadway, or perceived they lost some parking, and so therefore I don't believe that is an option for a shared parking. The parking lot that would be likely most appropriate or large enough to accommodate some of the overflow would be the parking lot for the church, but that's located a block and a half, so southeast of the actual structure. So this is really just the most viable option to ensure that parking is adequate on the site. And keep in mind too that that portion of the first floor commercial that they're hoping to occupy with a tenant is not yet occupied, and so therefore there will be additional parking demands. So I envision this will be used for employee parking, not necessarily for those that are interacting tenants and patrons of the site. So I do envision it'll be useful for the Blue on Broadway, but not necessarily occupied by, like I said, patrons or tenants.
Thank you. Has there been any discussion then with Marketplace across the street and their parking availability?
As far as utilizing across Broadway, I don't think that would be a preferred location for shared parking because it almost promote people from going across mid-block on Broadway, which would be a safety issue. And that's the thing. You can park in close proximity, but your behavior is going to be you're going to walk to your destination as the crow flies. You're not literally going to go where the painted lines are. And so I think while that may work as far as doing shared parking to meet the shared parking requirement or concept, the reality is no one wants anybody jetting across Broadway due to safety issues. And reasonably, no one's going to walk south to 17th, cross, and then walk further north. That's just not how individuals behave.
Okay. And then last question, sorry. In reading the materials presented by Epic, this is designed to be a 10-spot parking stall for primarily employees, right? So that other parking spaces are available for customers to come and go.
I will defer that to Blake. I envision that's precisely how they're going to use it, potentially either residents or patrons, or I'm sorry, residents and patrons would likely get the preferable parking spaces while leaving this to employees. It's primed to be used by employees, but I'll defer to Blake.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions
Yeah,
for staff?
Yeah, Chair Dominguez, this is Blake Nybach, and can I speak for just a moment?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I guess just in response to Mr. Bauman's question, yeah, I mean, the main purpose for this was with our original PUD, we already had a kind of a reduced parking amount that was kind of derived from our shared parking model that we conducted a parking study and all that. So these extra spaces were primarily so that we could not limit ourselves to just office users for the remaining space that we have in the building that's vacant. We've seen demand for both retail and office. And I guess just while the market was good as it is right now, we were just trying to kind of remove that limitation for us so that our commercial agents could, pursue either one without, kind of being hamstrung by that parking restrictions. So we felt that this would be a good way to alleviate that as we're still looking towards what the phase 2 project may come. But yeah, I would expect that it would primarily be for overflow or for employee parking and not necessarily customers coming on a day-to-day basis parking on the other side of First Street there.
Thank you, Blake.
Yep, thank you.
Is there anything else further for staff?
I have a small question. I was looking at the site plan, and on First Street Southwest, on the west side of it, they have little lines. Are those indicated for parking as well?
Let me bring up.
It's the site plan that has the dog park on it, this one. They got these little notches on the road.
That would be, yes, it's just illustrative, but yeah, that's what that demarcates.
Illustrates.
Is just,
But we don't know if that's going to be,
there are people parking on
There
First
is?
Street Southwest presently.
is it only during certain hours that they can park on the street?
I'd have to defer to Emily.
I wasn't sure.
First Street Southeast has parking only on one side, and it's actually the opposite side of what was shown on that concept.
Oh.
So there is parking.
It was on the
there is
east side.
No parking on the west side currently, and there is parking on the east side. And then that would just be follow the standard parking rules.
All right.
Anything further for staff?
I do have one question if I can.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Looking at this picture, it looks like there was already an approval for additional parking in the red space. So essentially, they're asking to move it from one space to another, or is this going to be an additional, meaning both spaces are likely going to have parking in it?
Chairman Dominguez, Commissioner Everson. So this is provided to you for illustrative purposes only. So what was approved is that the improvements to First Street Southwest and the Blue on Broadway site to the west of First Street Southwest. What's not included, effectively what's outlined in peach is ultimately what was Blue on Broadway. What they're requesting is to move forward at least a component of their development to the east, which did include parking with a mid-block crossing. So again, concepts will change until it's entitled and locked in. You can plan or bet that it's not going to be what's discussed. This is just very high level. Some of the concepts I've seen, the most recent ones are not even of a commercial use. So again, that's up to them. They're figuring that out, and odds are what we end up seeing is going to look different than this.
Okay, so if they want to come back then and put more parking in the red spot, they have to come back again and ask for that. So
That's
nothing was approved for that one before?
Correct.
Okay.
The only thing that's being entitled is that boxed in blue.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from staff?
And I might clarify that anything that's outside the scope of what they're already entitled, and when I say entitled, it's just for the public, that means what their property rights are within the zoning district that they have. So C2 General Commercial does allow for a parking lot to be established there, but they need to meet all of the C2 standards. What we're doing here is we're expanding the PUD, the planned unit development, to incorporate that which is contained in the blue box, to say these two, this off-site parking and the Blue on Broadway project, are now tied together and are considered as one. And because we're doing that, the city feels comfortable removing that 30% office use or equivalent condition that's tied to the project currently. So I'm not saying that they couldn't come back and have, you might see a parking lot or some type of commercial structure, but it's already entitled. They already have those property rights. But from what the concepts I've seen, and Blake would be able to talk to it, I envision them coming back and doing something a bit more with the property than just.
And we'll cross that bridge when we get
Yes,
to it.
exactly.
That's not on the table
Right.
tonight. So
Right.
thanks for clearing that up. I think that makes a lot more sense for maybe some that were questioning what was going on. So, anything else for staff? Okay, very well. We had comments open at the last meeting, and we'll reopen the floor for anybody who wishes to speak on the matter. Blake, since you're on the phone, if you have anything you want to add, you're certainly welcome to do so at this time.
Nothing further from my end. Thank you all for your patience in working with me and getting online tonight. I apologize for the tardiness, and just thank you for your consideration on this. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is anybody present here tonight that wishes to speak on this issue from the last meeting? All right. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing then. I'll turn it over to the commission. Is there a motion regarding item number 6?
I'll make a motion.
All right, go ahead, Dustin.
Based on staff's findings and facts, recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Offerall to approve based on staff findings, facts, and recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barnett. Any discussion?
Could I just get some clarification? Did that include the modification that I proposed on, that's up on screen for number 2?
Number 2, yes.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we'll call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Tomekis,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yeah.
Iverson,
Yes.
Leiter,
Yes.
Nestle,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Sessions,
Yes.
and Wagonist. All right.
Motion carries. Very good. And seeing nothing further on tonight's agenda, we are adjourned. Thank you all.